Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech. So, the world of AI, it's moving at an absolutely insane speed, right? Companies are throwing, literally trillions of dollars at it. But here's the big question we gotta ask. Is this the real deal, a true revolution? Or are we just watching a giant bubble inflate ready to pop? Let's get into it.
All right, let's just start with this number right here. $50 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a crazy amount of money, right? It's almost impossible to wrap your head around. But you know what's even crazier? Where this money is supposedly coming from.
Yeah, you heard that right. This isn't some government's budget. Nope. This is the planned spending on data centers from a single AI startup that's only 4 years old. Oh, and they're not even profitable yet. We're talking about Anthropic. And trust me, they're not the only ones. This is just a tiny piece of this gigantic global build-out that's happening as we speak.
And that, right there, brings us to what everyone's calling the AI infrastructure gold rush. The thinking is pretty simple. If we're going to power this next wave of AI, we absolutely have to build this massive physical foundation of data centers and chips. We're talking about a scale we've just never seen before.
And if you want to see what that optimism looks like in actual numbers, check this out. This is chipmaker AMD's 5-year forecast. Just look at that projection, an 80% annualized growth for their data center business. That's just wild. What you're seeing here is the market basically screaming that the demand for AI hardware isn't just a blip, it's explosive and it's here to stay. And this quote from Lisa Su, AMD's CEO, pretty much sums up the whole mindset. What she's basically saying is, look, if we build all this stuff and people actually use it, the money is going to be there. It's a classic if you build it, they will come scenario. A huge bet that all this spending will be worth it in the end. Okay, but this is where things get a little shaky. Because you know what comes with every gold rush, right? The fear of a bust. For every person screaming, buy, there's someone else in the corner whispering, is this whole thing just a giant trillion-dollar bubble about to pop? So yeah, let's talk about that trillion-dollar question mark. Because a lot of investors are starting to get, well, pretty nervous. They're seeing these insane spending plans and asking themselves, are we ever going to see a return on this investment? And this quote from investor Kimberly Forrest really nails the skeptic's point of view. She calls the current approach a brute force method. And what does she mean by that? Well, it's basically just throwing more and more computing power at the problem, hoping it works. It's not exactly elegant. Her bet is that we're smart enough to figure out a better, more efficient way to do this. So this is the core of the debate. Right here, you've got the bulls on one side saying, hey, this is a massive technological shift. We need all this infrastructure. But then you have the bears, and they're getting some serious déjà vu. They're looking back at the dot-com bubble. Remember that? When all those telecom companies spent billions on fiber optics and then went bankrupt? They're afraid we're getting on what they call a CapEx treadmill, just spending and spending and spending on gear with no real profit to show for it. But look, this isn't just about Wall Street and investor debates. There's a real-world physical side to this story. And this AI revolution, man, it has a huge, and I mean huge, physical footprint. It's something we kind of forget, isn't it? That this whole virtual world, it runs on actual physical power. Every single time you ask an AI a question, every model that's trained, all that data crunching in the cloud, it's just chugging incredible amounts of electricity. We're building this amazing digital universe, but it's plugged directly into our very real, very strained power grid. And that is the massive bottleneck. You can see it right here. These tech companies, they need that power like yesterday. So in the short term, what's going to happen? We're probably going to build more natural gas plants just to keep up. But the real, heavy-duty, clean energy we need, I'm talking about new nuclear plants, man, that takes a decade, maybe more, to get up and running. The timelines for demand and supply are just totally out of whack. So all of this, the money problems, the power problems, it brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. The big takeaway here might be that the future isn't about who can spend the most money. It's about who can be the smartest. It's a race to build a more efficient AI. So let's really nail down what we mean by brute force AI. Why are we doing it this way? Well, because it's kind of the easy way out, intellectually speaking. You just build a bigger model, throw more data at it, and run it on faster, more power-hungry chips. But the critics are saying, hold on a second, this just isn't sustainable. It costs too much money, it takes too long, and it uses way too much electricity to be the final answer. And that really is the trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Right now, the entire industry is betting the farm on this brute force method that has these huge costs and very real physical limits. But maybe the next huge breakthrough won't be an even bigger AI. Maybe it'll be a smarter one that can do way more with way less. The race is officially on to figure that out, and whoever does is going to define the future. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.